Hi bestie, welcome back. Today is episode 6 in our Colouring Every Page in the Cozy Home Colouring Book series. Colouring is my favourite self-care hobby at the moment, and it's just the perfect way to slow down, relax and unwind each week. So let's get started. Okay, so we've officially completed Beach Bungalow. I'll give you a quick little look at the pages that we've completed. These are all in a playlist for this book if you've missed any of these videos. And instead of going on to this one, I thought it would be quite fun to go on to Lazy Pool Day, since that's quite like a summery theme, and I just wanted to get the summary pages done whilst it's still summer. So let's go find that one. Okay, so here's our page. I'll get the protective sheet down. And this is just to prevent any bleed through from the markers showing up on the other side of the page. So I'm just going to try and flatten that out as much as I can. And then our little swatch cards. I also have a bigger set of markers that I will be using, so I'll also be referring to these swatch cards while we go. And I wanted to make this nice, light, bright, and just really cute summery vibes. So let's get started. And as always, I start with the skin tone. So I'm using YR24, which is cream. And I'm just gonna do that as the base shade for our little girly. And I thought this is just the perfect shade for giving off the illusion of a nice tan. And I was wondering, has anyone had like a pool day or a beach day yet this summer? Me and my husband went on holiday a couple of weeks ago, so we spent lots of time on the beach. I feel like there's a line that should be here, but I'm just gonna carry on. I'm gonna let that dry, and then I will go over it and do a second coat for the shadows. For now, I'm gonna do her hair, and I was thinking blonde could look quite cute, so we're starting with Y120 Buttercup Yellow and just doing that as a base. And then to add some depth to her hair, I've got Y260, which is Yellow Dahlia. And I'm just gonna create sections to her hair. I think that's nice. I'll leave that for now. And I'm gonna go back to that cream color that we used, the YR240, and just create some slight shading like under her chin. There. And just on the outside of her arm, going down, and also on this side of her leg, and where the other leg would be, and then just between the two legs and this side of her arm. And I'm just going to frame her face. Okay, that's looking cute. I'm going to grab Yellow Dahlia again, which was Y260, and add a bit more depth to her hair. I think that looks super cute. And I wanted to keep the page super pink, so I'm gonna do her glasses next. And I'm thinking to do, I think I'll start with fruit pink, and then I might do, yeah, I think, excuse me, I think I'll do fruit pink or just normal pink. Let me just grab the marker I need. So I'm starting with RV260, and I'm just doing that over her hair accessories and her sunglasses. And then I'm going over with R21 fruit pink, and I'm using the fine tip side. I wanted to create like a scrunching in her hair, and then smaller hearts, and then I'm going to grab a darker pink just to go over the top of that. So I'm gonna get apricot pink, which is RV320, and the fine liner side, I'm just drawing like tiny heart inside her sunglasses, and then just shading around her scrunchie. There we go. And now it looks super cute. And then I'll probably do some of the little flowers in the bushes. So I'm just gonna grab that RV260 again and just go around and add wherever I want a base of like a softer pink. And I think the center of these flowers. And then just all over these. And I'll put it all over these as well. And then I'll leave that for now. And then I think I'll do her swimsuit. So I'm gonna make this more of a blue color. So I've got Frost Blue, which is B030. I'm just gonna go all over on top of that, for a bit of shading, I'm using pale blue, which is B120. And I'm just going on this side of the swimsuit. And I think that looks really good. And then of course we have the water inside the pool, so I'm gonna do frost blue all over. That will be the lightest shade of blue in the water. And I'm just gonna make sure my page is under the right area. Don't want any bleed through. And then I'm gonna use a few shades of blue, starting with B120 pale blue. I'm going just around the edge and where it's close to some of the objects. And I'm just taking it very faintly and I will blend it in, just taking it around and maybe stopping there, and then just around this edge of the water here. I'm just trying to take it really gently. And I will blend it out with that frost blue again, so it doesn't look super harsh. Even darker blue called aquamarine, which is B140, and just blend that in just right. Just to mimic that water movement a bit better. And again with this shade, I'm grabbing frost blue and I'm just gonna blend it out. And then just to add a bit of depth and difference, I'm taking a viola, which is purple, and I'm just following it around some areas of the pole. I think that looks pretty. I'm just gonna create some like swells around, and I want to use a couple different colors to do this, and I'm hoping it creates the effect that I'm going for. So I'm gonna use this color called the white prawn, which is R120, and I'm just gonna do a little few swirls around the pole, and then I'm going to do that same effect with sunflower yellow, which is Y2, and just create some swirls. And I think that looks good for now. I might add a little orange with apricot, Y10. This might be too dark, so I won't do too many. There we go. I thought it just adds some movement in the water in a cool way, so I think that looks good. And then let's get started on the pool. So I think I'll just do a base color of pink, and then I'll add my shading on top. I was thinking to start with R120, which is light prawn, and just do that all over the inflatable pool. And then I might add some slight depth by just using a softer pink first. So I'm gonna do RV260 first to add a bit of natural shading. Oh, I hope it's not going through. Okay, I'm just gonna shift that down. Okay, and then I'm going to use light prawn to just create a bit of shading. Around. And then I'll take it on the bottom half of the top bit. And then using that pink colour, maybe not that colour, maybe let's use fruit pink, which is R21. See if I can create a bit of a blend between. And then I'm going to carry on with light prawn, just going down the rest of the pool. Okay, I think I'm struggling to create what I wanted to create, so I'm just gonna do the pool solid this color and then just use a darker pink to do my shading. Okay, and then whilst I've got this color in my hands, I'm just gonna go over some of the flowers in the trees and just add some dotting in the center. cute. And then I'm gonna grab a darker pink, which is pink apricot. This is RV320, and just wherever I think there should be a bit of shading, I'm gonna drag that around. And then I'll just take it under here. Okay, I think that looks good. I did want to add like a sprinkled donut effect to it, so I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna use our 200 in the fine liner tip and add like a little slanted lines. And then I will add like some yellow ones using my acrylic marker towards the end. I think it just makes the pattern look a little bit more interesting. Okay, I think that's looking good. Looks nice and cute. And then let's start adding some of the oranges maybe. Yeah, I think orange could look good. Orange could look quite good. So I'm starting with, actually let me use a different color orange for this. Let me use cardamom orange. So I've got cardamom orange, and I'm going to put that, I'm going to put that as like orange juice inside this glass. And then I'll use apricot, which is Y10, to finish that off. Go. And I think I'll have like a little lime on the edge of that glass, which we're going to create using yellow green. I think that looks good, and I'll also take that around for the edge of the watermelon. And then whilst we're doing a few of the leafy bits. Let me grab GY6. This is going to be like the yellowy tinge on some of the tree details, and I'm going to try and do it not so planned, but just kind of scatter the colour around, but just focusing mainly on the tips. And let me just move this upwards. And then the next colour we're going in with is sugarcane. So this is GY7. And again, just layering it on top. Not giving too much thought to where it lands. And then we'll go in with yellow green again, which is GY4. And then there's something else I'm not 100% sure about, but I wanted to try adding like pond green to some of the greenery. So we've got G360, and I think it's just to add a little bit of depth, but I'm not sure how it's gonna translate. It's actually not bad. And then I'm gonna blend it hardcore with the last colour that I used, but I just want everything to look a little bit more tropical. And I think that's perfect. So I'm grabbing yellow green again, and we're gonna blend that turquoisey colour out. Okay, I think that looks cute, and then I'm gonna just do that again, replicate that on the bottom. So starting with GY6, anise. Oh, let me bring that paper down, I keep forgetting. And then next is sugarcane at GY7. from here I'm grabbing GY4 yellow green, and I'm gonna try and create some more distinct and then lastly we've got G360 pond green, and I think I'll use the fine tip side. I'm just gonna do like a line down the middle, otherwise it just looks like a random bush, and then do that deeper color. More in the center. And sort of just blend it out. And blend it out with that yellow green again. And again with that turquoisey colour. And then as for the ones down here, I think I'll just go over them with yellow green. And then I'll add some flowers. I'm going to use R200 and the fine liner side, and I'm just going to do some flower outlines. I think that looks good. And then I'll get started on some of the wood and the trees, and as always I lean towards marigold, which is YR2, and I think for this one I'll also use smoked salmon and quince, and I don't want to get anything looking too brown, so I'm going to try and keep this as palish as I can. So I think I'll start with Y4, which is quince, and just do, oops, let me move this up again, and just do a base layer on the tree, and also on this branch. And I think also the flower pot. The window. Okay. There's like some missing lines, but it's okay. And I guess this is the door, so I'll put some around the door as well. And then I'll also put it on this little table here. And again, I need to move it down. Okay, so that's one layer down, and then I'm grabbing salmon pink, which is YR4, and I'll do it as the next shade, but to add a bit more depth, so around here, and just a bit like splotchy. And up again. The sun's coming from this direction, so I'll do it all over this side of the pot and that side. Oops, I need to go back down again. And also just add some shadows. I think maybe instead of marigold, I think I should grab deep orange, but I don't know. That could be counterintuitive, but or maybe let me just use marigold, or let's have a look. Maybe rose beige could be better. I'm just gonna grab rose beige. Okay, so I've got BR3, which is rose beige, and I'm taking it around this side, away from the sun. And then I also just wanted to create like little woodsy lines there. And then any area where I want it to be shaded away from the sun. I still want to keep my shading quite muted, so I'm not gonna go too dark with any of this. Okay, I think that looks good. I might take it just one tiny notch darker, and I'll use marigold for that, which is YR2. But I'll be very light-handed with it. I'm just adding some wooden line textures there. I hope that's not too dark, but I think this is looking good. And actually, let me bring that down. Okay, I think that looks good. So I'm gonna leave it like that for now. And then I am gonna add the other areas that are green. But let me do extra pink first actually. So I've got Coral Essence, which is R200. And actually, yeah, let me use the fine liner side. And I'm just adding some extra depth into those flowers from earlier. And then I'm gonna grab my greens again. And this time just starting with sugarcane, which is GY7. And I'm just gonna do that all over here. And then I'll grab GY4, which was yellow green, and just add some slight depth. I think that looks okay. And then going back to GY7, which was anise, I'm gonna now do any areas where there's grass and bushes. So, and again, I think there's another missing line here. So I'm just gonna drag that up. Maybe let me bring that up as well. Okay, I think that's quite nice. And then maybe on this side of the grass. And this bit of the grass as well. And then this side. Oops. The grass. And then I'm grabbing GY7 sugarcane and just adding it where the shadows would start. I'm just gonna create a nice blend. And then I'm going in with GY4, which is yellow green, and we'll just add some extra depth to the areas that should be more shadowed. Okay, and then for some dimension, I've got my 360 again, and I'm taking it where I really just want extra shading. And again, I'm trying to just be quite loose with it and not too harsh or strict with where I'm placing it. And then I'm going back with GY4 and I'm just going to blend wherever we've added that darker shade of green. And I think especially down here, it won't be too bright, so I think that looks better. But I'm really happy with how this is looking. I think it's looking like this sunlit. Okay, so then carrying on, I was gonna do some blue in the window, so I'm gonna grab frost blue again, which is B030, and just do that very gently. In the window. And then I'm gonna grab, I think, the darker blue I had before, which was aquamarine, and using the fine liner side, I'm gonna just create like a line going that way first, and then use the brush side to create my shading. And keep that quite harsh. And then I use frost blue again just to add soft shading around the edges and maybe even soften the divide there. I think that looks quite nice. And I'm trying to think what to do next. So I think maybe let me do the fruit on the plate. So I've got P4, which is going to be for the grapes. Let me just get the brush side. Oops, let me move this down. And then grabbing GY4 for the little stem. And then I think I can probably get away with light prawn again for the inside. So this is R120 for the inside of this watermelon. powder pink, which is R20, and we're using that on the plate. And then just normal pink, which is RV260. And then on the rest of that plate. And whilst I've got RV260 in my hands, actually, let me go all over the flamingo. Ooh, I don't know if it's... I'll try and be careful. And then I'm grabbing Sunflower, which is Y2. And oh, that is a very dark yellow. I'll just use it very gently and then grab a lighter yellow. I'll probably grab a Y3 instead, because I've got barium yellow and yeah, much better. So I'll use it there, and I'm trying to think where else. Maybe the curtain that's coming through that room could be yellow. And I'll just do a slight glow from where the light would be coming from. And here as well. Maybe, I'm trying to think what's the best. I could do like a gingham pattern. Yeah, maybe let me try and do some gingham. Or even yellow stripes. I'm going to pretend that's her towel and it's hanging over the door. So I think this door behind should be blue. And I am going to make it gingham. Yeah, I think that's looking really cute. So I'll leave that as is for now. And then the next step is I'll do these little pebbles down here. So let's see what I've got. So I've got buttercup yellow and I've got sand. I think I'll start with buttercup yellow, which is Y120. And I'll just do that all over the ground. And then I'll grab sand, which is E220. and I do use stones on top. And then trying to figure out what color to do the walls. I think I do want it to be quite a pinky looking house, so I think I'll do powdered pink, but I might start off with a lighter pink. So let's see. So I've got powdered pink in my hands at the moment. I might grab pale cherry pink to do some of the brickwork, or barely beige. Yeah, I might grab barely beige, so R19. If I can find it. Okay, so I've got R19 and I'm gonna do it all over the main, oops, not me keeping forgetting to put my sheet up, all over the main house brick. And then I'm going to use powder pink and go over wherever I want some shading. And I'll also grab R21 and just deepen some of that shading. Yeah, I think that's looking really nice, guys. I'm also gonna use R20, maybe not R21, maybe, let's have a think. Maybe light prawn, R120, and then just add some shading to this. Okay, that's quite dark. Maybe let me find a slightly lighter color to do, maybe R9. Okay, so I've got pastel rose, R9, and I'm gonna just add, yeah, I think that will be a softer way to do it. Just add some shading to this flamingo. Yeah, and I'll add some blush to her cheeks. And then I'm going to go back in with pink, RV260, and hopefully get a more blended effect over everything, but even if it doesn't look blended, it's okay. And then I something a bit darker. Oops. Maybe I'll start with an orange base and then do so I'm going to start with a cardamom orange base. So that's YR190. This part here. And then actually let me put that as well on the tip of the bowl there. And then I'm going in with R200. And I'm just gonna do that. I think that looks nice. And just to add it on the edge of that drink. And then I want to do the brick wall behind. I'm just thinking what's the best color to do, and I still need to think what I'm going to do there. I think I'll just make that glass as well. So maybe let me do the glass first while I try and figure out maybe what shade to make that brick wall behind. Okay, so I'm going to grab Frost Blue, which is B030, and just do a soft layer of that. I think that looks really nice. I might just deepen the gingham with Y2 sunflower, and I'm gonna use the fine liner side, and where there's spaces in between, I'm gonna add little lines. Yeah, I think that's helped that. And then using pale blue, which is B120, gonna add some shading to that door. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then back with sand, E220. I'm gonna add some depth to these stones, and then use the fine liner side. There we go. And then back to buttercup yellow, which is Y120. I'm just gonna add some slight shadows to where the rocks are. There we go. And then let's do something about this brick. I think the perfect shade will be like a pinky orange almost. So I'm gonna grab apricot. That will be the base. And then on top, I'm thinking to just do fruit pink and also salmon pink. So I'm starting with apricot Y10, and I'm doing that all over. Oops, that was a lot darker than I wanted. I think I meant quince, but let me take a step back. Yeah, I meant Y4, starting with quince. But I don't know. I might end up going back to that apricot. I'll see how I like what I'm about to do. To be fair, I don't mind it being that darker orange actually. I think I'm gonna layer that on top just to add a bit of dimension to the page. And whilst I've got R21 near me, I'm just gonna deepen that shadow again over this wall. And then I'm gonna go over that with apricot like I had before. So white 10. And I'm hoping this is a good move. Just like more of a dark brick. But then I don't know if that's blending too much with that Bic, but it's okay. Don't know if that was a good choice. It's okay. Just gonna keep going. I actually really like that. I think the only thing I might change is, let me do the sky first and then I'll try and fix that brick wall if I can, but I honestly think it might be fine, the shade that it is. But if I could layer another colour on top, I might just do that fruit pink I've been using. See if we can get some splashes of pink in there. And then as for the sky above, I think, let me pick out some soft colours again. So I think fruit pink would be nice, and light orange, and then also a yellow starting base. So I'm gonna see if I can create like a nice yellow sunset. So starting with Y3. I'm just using that for the base. And then maybe bring it up a bit higher. Yeah, I'm not sure about that wall, but it's okay. I think it's fine. I might just need another orange detail somewhere on the page. That's that same apricot colour. I mean not apricot, yeah, apricot actually. So then I'm gonna grab light orange, which is YR070, and bring that up the page. And blend it with that yellow again. And then I'm grabbing fruit pink, which is R21. And then at the very top, we'll have R9, which is a much deeper pink shade, and that blends really nicely with the colours just below. So that's what we've got going on, and then I did want to add a bit of a yellowy sun in the sky and then some yellow details, but first is figuring out where to get some more orange on the page going. I think I'm gonna put a dot over the rocks going up to the house. So I've got Y10 with me, and I might also just add it gently to the edges of the trees, just so everything, and the wood, just so everything looks a little bit warmer. Oops, and then down here again. Okay, and then also along this tree. And I think I'll put it in the soil a bit. I think that's looking a bit more cohesive with the orange on the bricks, and then I'll grab marigold, which is YR2, and I'll naturally just add some shading with it on the bricks. Yeah, I think that just makes it look more realistic. And I might just grab yellowish brown if I've got it with me, or maybe cream. Yeah, cream could work. And I'm gonna just add more shading around where I already added it before, just to make sure it stands out. And then just to warm up some of the wood. Okay, I think that's looking so much better. I'm gonna grab my yellow pen and I'm gonna add where the sun would be. Just there we go. And then just add all my yellow highlights. Okay, I think that's looking really good. And I'll probably stop there, I think. I'm just trying to see if anywhere else I could use some sun on it. But I think that's looking nice. Oh, actually, I did want to add some like donutty sprinkles, but I don't know if that's gonna look good or end up ruining it a little bit. So I think I'll probably not have those. I'll just probably leave it the way that it is, but I'm just gonna tidy up and then we'll have a look at the end result. So this is the end result. I love how it turned out. Thank you so much for coloring along with me. I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I did and that it was just the perfect little cozy time for you. I love and appreciate you all so much, and I read every single comment that you leave, and they always warm my heart so much. So thank you to everyone who joins along for these sessions every week. Let me know in the comments below if you copied the color palette that I was doing, if you were coloring along with me, or if you decided to do a slightly different color palette and take your own route with it. And if you'd want to keep coloring with me, I have another whole complete playlist with all the pages that I've done in this book and that I will be doing. I'll be adding those videos to that playlist, so if you want to head over there, we can keep coloring together. And I'll see you next week. Bye, bestie.